Hello everyone, my name is Madeline with Knit with Madeline. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and taking some time out of your day to spend with me to talk about some finished objects, whips, acquisitions, all the normal knitting podcast things. I can't believe I'm already making my third podcast. It seems like time has just flown. And I want to say hello to all of the new viewers. I gained a good amount of new subscribers recently, and it's so wonderful. It's so exciting every time I see the little notification, because it means that there are more people that I'm able to engage with and that are a part of this little tiny community on this corner of YouTube. So I really appreciate it. And anyone who is a returning viewer, also special hello to you. I really appreciate you hanging out with me, and especially the comments that people have left. The last video I posted was very different from the normal podcast format. It was more of a thematic, philosophical discussion about consumption in knitting and how that relates to We Are Knitters and the Zara debacle that's going on. And I really appreciated the response that I received to that video. I received a lot of, I've received messages, a lot might be overstating it, on Instagram, which is really lovely and has never happened before. And the comments that the comments that everybody left were just incredible and really added to the conversation and presented really in-depth and wonderful ideas, which was exactly the reason why I made the video, was to start more of a conversation about these things. And so I'm so excited that people were responsive to it, and it means it at least indicates to me that I should perhaps make more videos like that. So if you have any ideas or things you'd like to see me talk about, more topical or thematic relating to knitting, I would love to do that. I really enjoy being able to use some of the training I've received as a historian, to apply it sort of divorced from the original context that I learned it in, which was for historical reasons. Although I would really love to kind of look into the history of knitting and talk about that on my channel. I do know there are some videos on that already and a podcast, but we'll see. So these are just some ideas. Please let me know if you have any of your own. Before I begin, I just want to say I'm sorry about the lighting if it's crazy. I'm filming this a bit later in the day, and the light was coming in, it was making me all spotty and all blocky, so I pulled a curtain across the entire window, and I hope that that is just sort of softening it up. Fingers crossed, because I can't see what's going on the other side. I started using the back camera on my phone, and I have no idea what can be seen, what can't be seen, etc. So that is enough of my rambling. Let's just go ahead and hop right into the podcast. So I'll talk about finished objects, my whips, and then a very special yarn acquisition section. I was actually thinking about making a separate sort of vlog style video about my recent trips with my partner to Stockholm and Hungary. To Sweden and Hungary, those would be the countries, the cities being Stockholm and Budapest. However, I realized two things. Number one, I did a really bad job vlogging. There's something about filming in public that I can't get down with. And I don't even like filming in front of my partner. Like, I don't let him in the room. I usually film these early in the morning, so he isn't here. He's awake now. So I had a lack of footage. And then number two, I've waited a while because we went to Stockholm and then we came back for about a week or two and then went to Budapest. And a lot of the yarn that I bought, I am using in my whips, and one of my finished objects is using that yarn. So it kind of made more sense to me just to put the two together. So I hope you'll stick around to the acquisitions. I'm going to talk about my trips a bit, show some more clips from the yarn stores and from the cities, and I just think it'll be a fun way to talk about consumption in a different way with physical examples. Hello, just an interjection from later me. I want to say two quick things. Number one, I realized while I started filming the podcast, I was a bit too close to the camera, so in about midway through the finished objects, you'll see me move back to where I am now. The second thing is that I am not going to be doing the normal structure of the podcast, and acquisitions will come sooner because it makes more sense in the flow. So that's all. Thank you very much. I'm just going to hop right into the finished objects now, and I'll start with what I am wearing. So this is the Ursa sweater. It is by Jacqueline Sislak. Everything will be on the screen, and anything talked about in this video will be linked below. And I knitted out of West Yorkshire Spinners Retreat yarn, which is a unspun roving bulky weight yarn in the color Hope, I believe. And I finished it recently. Let me look at my little handy dandy knitting journal. I started it on the 1st of March and I finished it on the 18th. Some thoughts that I have about the garment, I might be looking at some of my notes, so I apologize if I look down, but I really love the garment. It's really light. Well, I guess I should show you it a bit more. So it's a cropped sweater. I hope you can see it in all of its glory. And it has this really fun half brioche stitch that goes down the front. Sorry for the creaky chair in advance. Down the back and under the arm, on both arms obviously, and then in the bottom you start gradually creating this sort of triangle. Let me just pull it up, I'm wearing a dress underneath. These triangle fisherman's rib. I'll insert a photo if this is looking so bad, I don't know. And I just think it's a really beautiful design, and it's written, it seems to be size inclusive in the best way, where the proportions of the garment are taken into consideration. There's an option to do horizontal bust darts, which I did. I don't know if I needed to do it, which brings me to sort of my thoughts on the garment itself. There's something strange about the fit. I don't think it's the pattern's fault really at all. I have a lot of extra fabric here that sometimes bunches like that, which I think might be because of the bust darts that I may not have needed. The crop length is perfect. I really like where it hits. So something strange is I knitted the sleeves exactly the same. I don't know if you can see this. I'm sitting in a very weird way. Exactly the same. Exactly. I even used stitch markers that I got, which we'll talk about in the acquisitions because I'm so happy to have them. And this one is shorter. And I don't think it's actually shorter. I think it just sits a little askew on me because when I have it correct, it's correct. It also may have been a blocking issue. And so the next time I wash it, I think I'm going to give it another block. Worst case scenario, which really isn't a worst case scenario at all. I have a lot of extra yarn of this. I had 8 balls in total. I bought it for a different project and I only used, I don't even think I used completely 4. I think I used, sorry, I have 2 pages of Ursa in here. I think I used like 3 and then just got into the 4th. I don't think I used 4 complete balls of this yarn. And yeah, I knitted the sleeves short because I expected them to block really long because that's my experience with sort of roving yarn, that it's very stretchy, and it just didn't quite. And in the photo, she's wearing it sort of to here. And I didn't want it to be that long, so I didn't want to push up the sleeve because of this beautiful half brioche stitch. But I also noticed that for some reason for me, it always, and I don't know if this is just like a body shape thing, but it is at a diagonal instead of being straight under my arm. And I'm always having to pick at it and readjust it, and I don't love doing that. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's a fit issue and it's just because it's so baggy here that it just moves. I'm not certain, but I really like it. I wore it on my trip to Budapest. I wore it today, obviously, with a sort of like midi calf length dress. It's very warm here in Belgrade, but it's windy. And so this is like the perfect transitional wardrobe item piece, I would say. Wardrobe item piece, the perfect transitional item or piece for your wardrobe. And again, the pattern is beautifully written. It's really inclusive. I would really recommend it. And I know that there is a version for a lighter weight yarn that I would probably do in the future because as you can see, some of the reasons I don't like roving yarn. I've worn this is my 2nd time wearing this, and there are already these massive floofs, particularly under my arm, because that's what rubs. I know it's pilling, but they're so big, it's like floofing, like that's what I would call it. And it's just, you know, it's a little frustrating, but I can't complain because I knew it was going to happen and it was a choice that I made. But I think for this kind of garment that it actually, I think it's fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal. The yarn is very soft for being 100% British wool. And I really like the color. It's like a blue-based dark gray. And I enjoyed it a lot. So that was my first finished object. My second finished object is very exciting because it's been something I have been knitting for forever. It is my boyfriend's sweater. Let me show you. Wow. So a bit of background on the sweater. I started knitting this back when we were living in the United States, probably in December. I don't know, who knows, only God knows. With yarn that I accidentally purchased. Well, I purchased it on purpose, but it was my first time like ever ordering yarn. It is a We Are Knitters yarn. Again, I ordered it a very long time ago. The baby alpaca, which let me just tell you, this is the softest, cushiest sweater, and it's very light, but it's very warm, I have been told. And it's just so soft. Like, I want something for me out of alpaca, baby alpaca specifically. But I got this colorway. It's the spotted gray. I'm knitting, and I'll go ahead and put a card to my other podcast where I talk about this because I literally had it like stopped here. It was probably more cropped than this cropped sweater. And I somehow thought that it was gonna block out and be totally okay. It wasn't. So I wanted to keep knitting it, but I didn't have enough yarn. So I ordered this Drops Puna. I believe it's in the colorway 6. It's on the screen. But it's just like the dark gray and it's kind of heathered and it's beautiful. And so I actually knitted it with the right side are like every 4th row is a purl row. This is just a pattern I made up. It's just a raglan. And then I joined the colors because my boyfriend liked the way it looked on the right side with a garter bump because he really liked the way it looked. So I was like, okay, that's not my personal preference, but it's not for me, so who cares? And then I finished knitting it and I'm like weaving in the ends and he's like, you know, Madeline, like I want to wear it. I'm going to wear it inside out. And I was like, and I agree, it looks really cool inside out. It's basically like striped, but via texture, which is really exciting. And then the join of the gray is just like seamless and beautiful. And yeah, I believe I knit it on a US 7 needle all the way through, including the different yarn. I sized down for the collar and the ribbing at the bottom and on the arms. One thing is that I tried to do like a crew neck raglan, and it is, you know, and it aspires to be. But when he wears it, it does pull a bit and it becomes kind of like a wide square neckline, and it's not his favorite. He always kind of pulls it up. So I'm trying to think if like maybe I should reinforce the neck with like a crochet chain, or if I should maybe try to pick up the stitches and knit a little bit more so that the collar comes in closer. I have leftover of this We Are Knitters yarn because, again, this was like the first sweater. It was just like the second sweater I ever knit, first sweater on such a small gauge, and I wasn't following a pattern. So I got really nervous about the yarn, and I just don't think I needed to be, because I only used, I think, 1.5 balls of this Drops Puna. So I think I could have made all of this in the spotted gray. But I really do love the way the sleeves look. I just like graduated the stripes. So this has 5 rows, 15, and then to the rest of the arm. I did a 1x1 rib on all of the hemlines, and I think it looks really beautiful in this yarn. Usually I don't love normal ribbing because I just feel like it gets so stretched out, and I don't know. I know it's like not avoidable, but I don't like it. Oh, I guess it does look like that on the right side. I don't know. But flipped inside out, it's just beautiful. Like this ribbing at the bottom. Like, excuse me. And at the neckline, it just looks so nice. I can try to put it on. I don't. Okay. So here it is. Obviously, my boyfriend has a smaller chest than me, so it fits differently on him, but it's just really beautiful, and it fits him just right. Like, it's tight but not squished, if that makes sense. He's not squished inside of it. He wore it when we were in Stockholm, because that's what I was really trying to finish it for, and he pulled a stitch out. I have no idea how he managed to do that. So I need to fix that, and I need to finish weaving in some of the ends. But this baby alpaca is so soft. One thing he mentioned to me is that the drops puna is definitely a lot scratchier. He wore it with a long sleeve shirt underneath because it was freezing cold in Sweden, but I definitely noticed that, like, down here and where the gray is, I definitely feel a bit more of an itch. It's, I guess, not itchy as much as it's prickly, especially when you have it with this other very soft yarn. But I think over time it should soften. And I just think the colors look so nice together because this darker gray is kind of heathered. And obviously the spotted gray is like intentionally heathered. And I do think that he made the right decision, even though it was really annoying when it happened, but to wear it inside out, because I think the sort of textured stripes just look so good. Final thoughts about knitting this. I learned a lot of valuable lessons while knitting it. The first is that when you're doing arm decreases, that it's a good idea to not do an SSK and a knit two together immediately next to each other, and that putting one stitch on either side of, I always do it where the stitch marker is on the inside of the arm, is a lot better and produces fewer holes. I also learned a lot about frequency of decreasing, that it's a good idea, that if you're trying to decrease really quickly, to still try to do one round of just plain knit after a decrease row, again, to sort of minimize holes. I learned, I don't know, I guess I want to say I learned about fit, but I don't think I did because the collar isn't the best, and I don't know. I do see a lot of raglans that do have a tighter neckline, and I wonder if I should have just cast on fewer stitches and then just increased more, and then the yoke, but then the yoke would have been deeper, and then the arms would have been bigger, which were already too big for him. So I'm still kind of figuring that part out, but I'm really happy to have this done. It was his birthday, Christmas, and Valentine's Day and anniversary gift, which sounds really bad, but our anniversary and birthday month it's the same month, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, okay? So this was my second finished object to discuss. I finished this first and then the Ursa sweater, and my next finished object I'm so excited to talk about, and it's using some of the brand new yarn. So I made a last minute decision just now to mess with the order of the podcast, and I'm going to talk about the shawl, and then I'm going to jump into my acquisitions because all of my whips are using the acquisitions. So I just think it makes more sense. So I'm going to go ahead and change back out of this into my Ursa sweater. And then my third, and oh, it's not my third and final finished object. I have kind of a half finished object also to talk about. I forgot about that. But my most, actually, I'm going to go grab it now because I'm going to go grab it now. I'm back. So I use this bag. It's like a really old makeup bag with a big hole down the side, probably not the smartest, to carry around my socks and my on-the-go projects. And I am happy to report that on the bus ride to Budapest, which this actually makes it a good transition to the next finished object. So yay for me. I finished a sock. And it's the sock I've been talking about in my other podcast that I haven't shown anyone. But I love this colorway. It's so beautiful. It is, I have actually the ball band in here. Patton's Croix socks in the colorway Brown Rose Marl. And it is 75% wool and 25% nylon. This is the ball. It's like really smushed because I've had it in so many bags and purses and stuff. But it's just really, really beautiful. I love the colors, that sort of blush pink and gray, and what else? What other colors are in here? A lighter gray, darker gray, sort of a more true pink and a purpley pink. It's just a really beautiful yarn. And I know that this sock looks a little bit tiny and skinny and weird. It is a ribbed sock. So let me, it's ribbed, so it grows quite a bit. I had a funny sort of time with this sock. I followed the pattern kind of I printed it out and I just folded it up and kept it in there. It is, I believe it was free. It might not be free. I don't know. But it's Wise Hilda's Basic Ribbed Sock. And it is by Kate Atherley. And yeah, it has a lot of good sizes, a lot of good information. I followed a pattern. I think it was free. I don't think I would pay for just a plain ribbed sock pattern, but I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I do wild things. But I just didn't really know sort of the stitch count for a ribbed sock, so I followed that. It's a well-written pattern. It's top down, normal heel and gusset. So a couple of things about the sock. Number one, I knit it on 9-inch circular needles. I thought I had them right here. No. Those are different needles. Here they are. Tiny guys. By Clover. I think it's like literally in the smallest size they make. It's so small it's not listed on there. I liked it very much. It was a bit strange getting used to using such teeny tiny needles. But from here down until the toe area, I used those needles. I even used them to do the heel flap and gusset, which I was really proud of myself for doing. And I really like the depth of the heel that I got. And then when I got to the toe, I was like, I'm just not certain I can do a toe on 9-inch circular needles. If you know how to do a toe on 9-inch circular needles, please tell me how to do a toe on 9-inch circular needles. Let's see how many times I can say those 3 words. So I switched to the smallest needles that I had with me at the time that were on a large fixed cable, which I believe are 2.75 millimeters. So like a good deal bigger. And I don't really think you can tell. I did it for the toe. I don't think you can tell, honestly. And then I tried them on and I wanted them to be short socks, but they were like weirdly short. They like weren't proper shorty socks, but they just barely kind of hit at my ankle and they just looked strange. So I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And since they're just kind of like an on-the-go sock that I don't really, I mean, I love the colorway, but this is also a commercial yarn that you can get at like Hobby Lobby or Michael's in the US. And so I'll definitely be able to get more of it. I mean, I hope they don't discontinue the color because it's so beautiful. I don't think they will. I mean, how would I find out about something like that? If you know, please tell me because I want another ball of this because it's so pretty. I picked up the stitches at the top and you can see where I did it. Some areas of the sock, you can see this is where the original sock was or started and where I picked up to, I knit that much more. But when it's stretched out and it's ribbed, I don't really think you can tell very much. Only when it's not stretched out, like in certain areas, you can tell a lot more than others. But I think it's totally fine. And like I said, it's a sock. And when you wear it on your foot, I mean, who's really looking for that? I know I'm not. But now I'm wearing shorts, don't worry. I have the perfect shorty sock length. This was exactly where I wanted it to hit. And it's great. If this is weird, I'll cut it out and insert a video of me walking around in it. But I really love the sock. I really love the colors. I'm just looking at it in the light right now and it looks so pretty. It is just gorgeous. So I'm glad to have it. I might keep it on. And what's fun is that on the toe, now I'm gonna take it off to show you this because I don't wanna flash anybody. The toe is like all gray and then the very, very tippity top is pink. And it's just so cute. And I love the way it's striped with these big stripes and then these little ones in between. It's just a really great sock yarn, and I would recommend it. It's warm, it's woolly, it has a very toothy feel. I like it a lot. When I will knit the second one, I don't know, because I bought a lot of like fun sock patterns and I want to knit more socks. And now that it's spring, I kind of want to wear socks and Birkenstocks. And the yarn patterns I got from Sorry Nordland, which I talk about, I believe, in my second or first podcast, I'll put the little card up there, are just beautiful. And I have this beautiful sock yarn that I didn't want to use for socks, but I think I'm going to, because I want to have pretty decorative socks that I can wear where people will see them, either with low-rise sneakers or with my Birkenstocks. So I don't know when I'm gonna knit the second one. I'm gonna do it when it suits me. This sock is kind of fun because I started it on the plane ride to Europe. So that would have been the very last day of December. And I just finished it and it looks really weird and I like it a lot. So that is my half finished object, I guess. And then my really exciting final finished object to talk about is another Laulu Shawl. And it is gigantic. Definitely not as big as my Stephen West shawl, but let me go grab the other Laulu shawl to show you a comparison. So here is the Laulu shawl as followed in the pattern, straightforward, exactly how it tells you to do it, except I did knit it in one strand of DK weight yarn, a cashmere yarn that I talk about in my first podcast episode. And then the second one that I did, as you can see, is, how can I do this better? Much bigger. And I knit it in the recommended yarn, not the recommended brand, but I knit it in a fingering yarn and a mohair, which I'm so excited to talk about. This is unblocked, so it will get even bigger. But I finished it the day before yesterday, and I just really wanted to show it because I think it's so beautiful. I really love this shawl. I hope it's picking up the light because it's so beautiful in the light. So some details about it. First of all, in the pattern itself, it's a Sorry Nordland pattern. It's charted and also written, and in the instructions, she advises that if you want to make it bigger, just do one of the charts an extra time and then do this chart following as many times as you need to get down to the required stitch count. And so I was just going to do, for the chart that you repeat in this big section or in this middle widest section to make it bigger, I wasn't going to do the fold. You have to kind of finish in the middle of the chart. So I was going to do the full chart and then finish the middle like it says in the pattern. And then I was just going to do another from this beginning to the middle. I wasn't going to do another full chart and then halfway through because I was worried about not having enough yarn because I had one skein of the wool and one skein of the mohair. And I wasn't paying attention and I was watching Outlander and I ended up just knitting basically that whole middle section chart twice. So I did chart basically row 1 to row whatever, the last row twice, and row 1 to the middle row twice. So I fully doubled the size of this shawl, and I put a stitch marker where the shawl normally, okay, so let's look on the wrong side. So you begin on this side and you knit, 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 and this row right here is where the shawl, this would have been the widest part of the shawl right here. And then it would have started decreasing evenly to create the triangle shape. But look how much extra I have before I start decreasing. So that, well, let me show you on the right side now. I have that much extra from this finger to this finger from doing that chart twice. And I will say, I just love it. So I don't know, I'm gonna wear it like a bib, I guess. I don't know. Let's talk about the yarn, because that will bring us into the really exciting acquisition part of this podcast. I don't remember what I did with the ball bands. Give me a second, I'm gonna So apparently I'm really disorganized and I cannot find the ball bands. So I'm going to pull up on my handy dandy iPad the yarn shop I got them from. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to talk to you about the yarn store and see really hard to find the yarn. Their website isn't working. I do know that the mohair that I used is called potatis. I only remember because it reminded me of the word potato, obviously, and I thought that that was funny. So let me grab them. I'm very disorganized today. So this is the mohair. I have this much left over. It's 70, I think, or 75% super kid mohair, baby super kid. You know what I mean? The baby mohair. What? Yeah. The super kid baby mohair. Whatever. It's like 70 or 75% that, and then it's 25% silk. And it is just this beautiful gray, really lovely. I want to say almost like with like a blue purpley base, but it's very just like a straightforward, let me try to get it in the light there, light gray. And it is gorgeous and it's so soft. And when I was knitting it on the strand, I would see like these little curly cues of the mohair, and it kind of looked like the goat that the yarn comes from, and I loved that. And then the second yarn, I used the main yarn, and this is all I have left. And this is why I was very stressed about accidentally making it longer than I expected. I will look really hard for the name of the color of this yarn. I don't remember. And I also can't remember. It was either 100% or like, I think it's 100% Corriedale. And this is the first time that I've knit with Corriedale. And it's really enjoyable. It's a non-superwash yarn, I believe. And to me, it looked like a heavy fingering weight, but when you pull it, it gets pretty fingering. And it is just a beautiful yarn. I put a picture of it on my Instagram that I took at night. So I took it with flash, with no filter, and this yarn literally shines. Like, it's shiny. It's so beautiful. And the idea behind this Laulu shawl was that I'm just going to wear it like this so that you can just really take it in. I love my other Laulu shawl. I wear it all the time. I mostly wear it wrapped around my neck like this with the triangle in front. Obviously this one's a lot bigger. And then I tie it. I'm sure that this looks crazy and I really want to wear it around my head like a babushka moment that I talk about in in probably 2 of my 3 podcasts. But I found that I guess I have a lot bigger head than Sari Nordland, because it didn't, at first at least, fit all the way around my head and my neck, and then it left a big part of my head open to the world, which I didn't love. I tried it the other night with the green one, and I can definitely wrap it around my head and my neck and tie it. But it does leave kind of the back part of my head open, and I just didn't like it that much. So I was like, I'm gonna knit a much bigger one so that I can wear it as a true babushka shawl moment as I've wanted. So that's what I did. And one day, so the color behind the story, I'm sorry, I'm very chatty today. The story behind the color, did I say the color behind the story? Is that I was wearing basically an all black outfit, and I put on my Laulu shawl, and I had a black and white sweater. And I put on my Laulu shawl and I liked it. And my boyfriend was like, oh, I don't think you should wear that because you're wearing all black and white. Like, it's kind of random. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I mean, I was offended because obviously I thought it looked good. I put it on. But I took it off and I was like, okay, whatever. And he was like, you think you need one in like a gray or like that kind of neutral that isn't, because I think that olive green back there is very neutral, and it definitely is, but I get what he was saying, like a more cool toned neutral to go with a bit more cool toned outfits and like all black outfits. So I was like, okay, I'll knit a gray one, but I don't really like gray that much. It's definitely growing on me. So when I went to Sweden, one of the yarn stores that I went to was Fingerborg Boutique. and it is run by a lovely woman whose name I did not catch because I'm a horrible patron, but she had the cutest shop. I'll put some photos, and just really excellent yarns. And I chose this one, and she was so helpful, and she came up and she helped me. I told her exactly what I wanted to knit. I had the other Laulu Shawl with me. I told her what color I was going for, and I picked out a few, and she helped me choose this one, which is, as you can see, as it's on my head, is a variegated yarn, and it's this beautiful purple toned light gray with these splashes of like a lavender purple. And she helped me choose the mohair because that's what I was really struggling with, because there were so many beautiful mohair options. And she helped me choose this one because she was saying if you're going for gray, when you put these two together, it's going to pull more of this light gray. And I think that it definitely does. You still get like the interest of the purple, especially when I come near, and it gives it a little bit extra, and my winter coat is purple, so it kind of ties in nicely. But I really feel like when I'm far away, or you're looking at it from far away, it really just reads interesting gray, like gray with depth, which put a pin in that comment because I will get back to it. But that's all I'm going to say about this right now. I knitted it on the recommended needle size, which is a US 6. It's really warm, wow. And I don't think I'm going to be able to wear it. It's really warm in Serbia, and it looks like it's going to stay warm, which I am very grateful for. But this is absolutely beautiful. I'm really happy I made it bigger. I'm really happy I was able to use basically all of my yarn. Obviously, I have a lot more mohair left, but I'm sure I'll be able to figure out something to do with it. I may even use it with my leftover baby alpaca yarn and create like a balaclava or a hat or something. I know what I said about hats, but you know, sometimes it's good to have options. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say about it. The last thing I'm going to say is I might make another one. Because you'll see in a moment, I'm going to talk about a shawl I'm making for my mother because she's coming and visiting me here. But my grandmother is also coming with my grandfather very soon in April. And my grandma is a knitter, and she's the person who taught me how to knit. I also bake sourdough bread, and I hate to brag, but I'm really good at it. And it's the one thing I'm really proud of, and I will straightforward be like, I'm very good sourdough bread baker. I'll put in a photo. I'll put in a photo because I'm not lying. But she has never tasted my bread. She's the only one in my family, her and my grandfather. They haven't tasted my bread because I moved across the country. And I'm knitting something for my mom and probably for my sister eventually one day. I've knitted stuff for my partner. And I've never knitted anything for her, and I love knitting this. It goes by really quickly, and I know that at my local yarn store here in Belgrade that I can get the same cashmere that I had in the dark olive green in like a mid-tone gray. And I've never seen my grandmother wear I've seen her wear a scarf, I think, but I've never seen her wear like a little kerchief thing. But I think it would just be a nice gesture, and even if she doesn't ever use it, it's pretty. And I really love how the cashmere one has held up. I wear it all the time. It just gets softer and softer, and it's very smooth, and I don't think she would love the fuzz of mohair, so I actually think that it would work out pretty well. So you might see another Laulu Shawl on my needles. I don't have the yarn for it currently, but who knows? You never know. I certainly don't know. So now, finally, I am so excited to talk about the other yarn that I purchased on my trips and sort of why I bought it and the sort of sentiment behind it. Okay, so finally moving on to my acquisitions, which was supposed to be the main part of this video, but I've talked so much about everything else. The lighting has changed. I opened the windows, tried to mess around. I moved back because I realized I keep encroaching on the camera, and then it's like half of my head is cut out, so I'm really sorry about that. But let's begin. So let's start with the most recent and then work our way back, just for fun. Sorry, there's going to be some crinkling. But literally 2 days ago, I don't know, time is not really a thing for me. But last week, my partner and I were in Budapest, which is the capital of Hungary, which is one of the most absolute beautiful cities I've ever been to in my entire life. I'm fortunate enough that this was my second time going. So it was really fun to be able to go with my boyfriend for his first time and go to actually a lot of places I hadn't been to. And we went to a lot of churches, and there's like the second largest synagogue in the world or in Europe. I don't really know, the Doheny Synagogue. And there's just a lot of beautiful Moorish and Gothic and secessionist architecture. And the inside of these churches and synagogues are just breathtaking. I'll put some photos. And there were 2 yarn stores I wanted to go to, and then I only ended up going to one. It's called 1001 Fonal. I don't speak Hungarian, so please excuse me. But I wanted to go there because they carried a lot of like Laulu Shawl and different brands like that, as well as Malabrigo. And so I was like, great, you know, I'll get 1 skein of stock yarn, and then I'll get some skeins of like a lighter cottony plant fiber yarn to make summer shirts. And that's not what happened. So right before I went to that yarn store, actually, one of my lovely subscribers named Kate mentioned me in a comment on one of my videos and was like, hey, I'm casting on a ranunculus out of some cotton. Let's do it together. Because I've talked, not negatively, but, you know, I've questioned sort of the ranunculus craze. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to do it because why not? I need summer shirts. And so the idea was I wanted to find a yarn that kind of tied in a lot of the colors that I had seen in these cathedrals and churches and synagogues, which was a lot of kind of bright colors and then also muted colors in the various stone that they used. Like there was like this dark purple granite and a lot of maroon and burgundy, but then also blue and coral and gold and just all of these beautiful colors. So I ended up getting this yarn right here. I'm sorry, the sun is going in and out and it's being wacko, but it is Silk Paca, which is a base of Malabrigo yarn that I am unfamiliar with and I haven't seen in yarn stores in the US. I could have just been missing it, but I mean, what can you do? It's a lace weight yarn. It's 420 yards or 384 meters for 50 grams. It's 70% baby alpaca and 30% silk. So it might be kind of warm for the summer, but the ranunculus is knit on a pretty big gauge, so I think it'll be okay. But it is this beautiful color. It's number 862 Pedros. Don't ask. And it is just absolutely beautiful. I don't know if it will pick up in the video or what. If not, I'll put in a photo. But it basically just has like a dark purpley burgundy, this light green and yellow that kind of reads gold, brown, corally, orangey peach, like very light. It is just absolutely gorgeous. And when I saw it, it was definitely not the color I was going to get. In fact, I saw it online and I was like, that's not for me. But keeping in mind the idea of trying to sort of capture these beautiful buildings that we were in some type of knitted object as like my one souvenir from Hungary, I really felt that this was the best option. So I got 2 of these and I've been dying to just cake it up and get going. But when we move into whips, which I'll be very brief about, you'll see that, I don't know if this is the time, but it seems like it's kind of brighter over here. So beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So excited. I also I couldn't control myself. This is kind of getting unhanked, but I am in the process of building like a capsule wardrobe, which I think I'm going to make a video about at some point in time, maybe when I'm a bit more successful in the endeavor, but talking about how it kind of helps me make decisions with yarn and designs to knit, which is kind of ironic because in this case it led me to buy more yarn. But this is just the same base. It's the Silk Paca and it is in the color Polar Morn 009, which is actually, I'll talk about in a moment because it actually relates to here's the sun, to one of the yarn purchases I made in Stockholm. But it's this beautiful blue toned gray and I love it. I got 2 again because I figured I can make another like short sleeve tank out of it. Or if I fall into the ranunculus hole, I can make 2 ranunculi. So that's that. And like I said, I don't really see the Silk Paca. I can't remember if I was reading about a different yarn base, but I remember somewhere saying like it's discontinued or they're not really like doing a lot of it anymore. That could be fake news, so don't listen to me. But I love it. It's beautiful and I'm happy to have it. So that's that. And then put it back there. I pulled out the other skein of Pedros just to put back there. Here's the light, heck yeah. I was kind of afraid to get these because it seems to me that there's a very big difference in these two hanks in the colors. This one seems to be a bit more saturated. I hope the sun's actually doing me favors and not just looking weird right now. But yeah, this one seems to be definitely more vibrant. So I think I'm gonna take my first try at alternating yarns, or maybe just use like the lighter one for the yoke and this one for the body. It doesn't really matter that much to me, but that's why I was like, okay, I'm not gonna get these because they look really different hanked up, but they're definitely the same. And are they from the same dye lot? Now that's a good question. I should have asked myself earlier. No dye lot. No dye lot. So I guess it doesn't matter. That's what it literally says on the tag. No dye lot. Okay, put this back there. And then the last yarn that I got in Stockholm, see, I was trying to be responsible and I didn't get any yarn that I didn't have projects for. But as I talked about in my consumption video, there's more to consumption than just like actually consuming. And in terms of sort of the ethical, moral level of consumption in this case, you know, I bought from small private local yarn shops that are owned in, you know, cities that I don't very rarely frequent. It was a really fun way to get to know the city, looking up the yarn shops, seeing where they are, how many there are. There's a lot more in Sweden, which I think kind of speaks to the more Scandinavian, the regularity of Scandinavian knitting, so to speak. Less in Budapest, which is very similar to Belgrade. So it's just a fun way to kind of get to know the landscape more. And also, and this is not me justifying, like, you know, it's my money, like I'm gonna spend my money how I want to spend my money. But this is just what I think about when I'm doing it. And as I commented on Rachel from Night Sky Knitting podcast, it's just a really wonderful souvenir because while you're knitting with it, you're thinking about where you got it. And then though I haven't finished any of these projects yet, I just know that like when I wear these for years and years to come, I'm going to remember like, oh, this is the fun, cool green pastel yarn that I bought in Budapest with my partner whom I love very much. So this yarn is the Lana Grossa Ecopuno Degradé. Did you catch that? Ecopuno Degradé, which I think is basically the same base as the Ecopuno yarn. I think, I didn't really look, but it has a like variegation to it. I assume that that's the difference. They had a bunch of different color options for this yarn. I chose this one. Which I will also get to in a moment. Sorry, I should have probably thought through this podcast a bit more. It is 70% cotton or baumwolle, 19% virgin wool or scherwolle, and 11% alpaca or alpaca. And I like for alpaca in parentheses, it says baby. So it's baby alpaca. It's 100 grams and 380 meters. It's really soft. And I am knitting, so I'm just gonna include the whips here now because why not? I'm just try to save time. I just dropped stuff on the floor since I'm talking so much. I got 2 balls of this and I am making, here, let's put this nicely over here because I think you can see that. I am knitting the So Summer shirt by Jessie May, which is really exciting because I'm making myself a PJ set and this is the top. I cast it on, I started very late last night and I crocheted the chain for the provisional cast on because I'm doing, there's a folded hem option, there's a ribbed hem option, and just a basically a stocking net rolled hem option. I'm doing the folded over hem because I wanted to practice the provisional cast on because I've never done it before. And you'll see in an upcoming whip that it's going to be necessary. And I just love this color. I didn't need a swatch, but I unraveled it because I am just gonna have enough yarn. It's this beautiful light pastel green. It just screams spring. It's really soft. And Jessie May recommends that you use a plant-based yarn so that it has the same drape as the photos in the pattern. Because this is 75% cotton, I think I'm gonna get that drape. And it is gonna be really soft and like a touch warm, which I think is good for a pajama shirt. And I also might wear it out because there are no rules unless I make them. And I'm knitting the size 1X, I believe, because I want it to be large. I'm probably gonna knit it a bit longer because that's just what I want. And yeah, I have one more row to go before I do sort of the dividing line between where you will roll the hem, or fold it rather, and then I'm gonna fold the hem and then I'll be going into the body. So it should be really beautiful. I got these new needles in Serbia before I left, and I love them a lot. And I don't know if it's just because I've never really knit on like true metal needles before or what, but they look like this. I got two of them. I got this size, which is a 3.5 millimeter, and this, which is a 3.0 millimeter. They didn't have the sizes that I needed, but what can you do? This is like literally $1 for this needle. I don't know, it says $1 here, basically 100 dinar, but it also says 230 up there, so it could be $2.30. I don't remember. My point is that these are so cheap, and the cord is made out of, here, let me put them down because they're noisy. The cord is like an encapsulated wire, but it actually, unlike the other needles that I bought here that are like a weird, like covered porcelain, and they're very expensive, and I don't like them. When you take the cord out, oh, here they are. I have a pair of them. Oop, oop, oop. That's what they look like. They're like porcelain and coated, and the coating wears off, and I do not like them. And the cord is awful. Like it has a hell of a ton. It has a bunch of memory. It's really hard to do magic loop. Really not a big fan. But these ones, I mean, I know I just started and I haven't had to magic loop yet, but the cord comes out and it goes immediately like a perfect circle. And it's just, I really feel like when you bend it, it's gonna keep the bend because of the wire on the inside. And I don't know, I like them a lot, and they're really cheap, and I have no idea what brand they are, but if you can get yourself pack circular knitting needles, art number B004. They're cheap and they're good, in my opinion. So that's that. Let me put it over here in my little pile. So that's the yarn I got in Sweden. Gonna definitely knit a ranunculus. Might knit another, we'll see how that goes, or another summer top. So that is that. We're almost done, I promise. So before I went to Budapest, that was from Budapest. This is from Stockholm. When I was in Stockholm, I was so excited because there were so many yarn stores. I believe I ended up I went to two. The first was, I don't know. The first was Fingerborg, which was the yarn that I used to knit up the Laulu shawl that I've already shown. The second is called, your guess is as good as mine, Litet Nystan? I can't remember. But to finish up at Fingerborg, I got more than just the yarn for the Laulu shawl. I also got this beautiful yarn. It is Handfargat garn, don't know. Maybe hand-dyed yarn is what I would assume. It's 50% merino, 30% baby alpaca, and 20% silk. It is a 4-ply, 400 meters, 100 grams, and it's in the colorway Lung. I don't know, I don't speak Swedish either. But it is just this beautiful, try to catch the light, light, but like hot. Like if you took hot pink and then like turned it down, it would be this. It's like a mix between like some type of pastel and like a hot pink. And it's like a really true pink. It probably has like a blue or purple undertone if I wanted to get really technical with it. But it is gorgeous. And I would never like really wear like an item made out of this, to be honest. But I am making the Jessie May blood or butt shorts. And grab it. I have technically started. So I made a ball of one of these. Look how big this ball is. It's huge. And I did it by hand. And basically you start by making a really long I-cord for the drawstring. So I am making an I-cord. Ta-da! And I'm knitting on the recommended US 8. I did make a swatch for this one because I've never made bottoms, and you know, I think the fit is a bit more important than a top. So I knitted it in the round, but I didn't cut it because I know I have extra yarn, but I get really nervous about it and I can't really get more of this. So I knitted a swatch, I blocked it, I did a bunch of different needle sizes because I'm lazy on one swatch. So I did a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I did a US 10 and I did a US 8. And the 8 is what is recommended and the 8 is what I am doing. I'm gonna check my gauge as I knit because since I didn't cut it and I did block it, I really think I am going to get gauge, but I am worried about it. The 10 just seems too big to me and the 7 too small. I don't even know if US 9 exists. I don't have that. I can look and see if there is like an in-between size for the millimeter sizes because I know that there are more millimeter sizes than US sizes, whatever. Basically, all I'm saying is that I didn't quite get gauge. I'm really close. I do love the drape of this fabric though. I just think it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be so soft because it's like silk and alpaca and merino. I love the color and I love how it's variegated. And I'm just gonna knit this really long I-cord and just kind of think about what I want to do about the gauge. And then when I get there, I will figure it out and choose a size that can kind of accommodate the gauge that I have. So I got 3 of these, 1, 2, 3, which should be more than enough. If I have extra, I'm really not certain what I'm gonna do. I guess this would be like a nice color and like a colorwork sweater. I don't know, I've never knit a colorwork sweater. But yeah, this is Lung by Fingerborg Boutique. On the base finesse is that baby alpaca silk merino blend, and it is great. And from knitting up the swatch, I like it. And from knitting up the tiny bit of I-cord, I like it. So there we go, we got that. That is all I got from Fingerborg. If you are ever in Stockholm, the metro system is great. You can get anywhere. This was in like a fun shopping area, this shop, and the woman was just lovely. And her hand-dyed, it was like the only in Stockholm hand-dyed yarn that's dyed in Stockholm that's available to purchase that I could find. The other shop I went to, which let me get into those yarns now, carried a lot of different brands of yarns like Kama Rose, Knitting for Olive. They had a bunch of Knitting for Olive, Madeline Tosh, Malabrigo, Sundus Garn, lots of those. But none that were like hand dyed or like made, I don't know about made, but at least dyed in Sweden, which is what I was going for. So I'm so happy I was able to get that with the Fingerborg Boutique. But at Le Tête Nice stand, at the other yarn store, like I said, they had a really wide collection of yarn, and it was really fun to be able to touch like all of these yarns that people talk about. They had Sniff Nug, they had everything. And they had a whole bunch of samples, a lot of which were petite knit patterns. So I was actually able to see them in person, which was cool. But I went there with the primary goal of finding yarn for my mom's Laulu Shawl because she is coming eventually. She's coming in the summer, in June. And I want to give myself a lot of time to work on it because it's going to be really big and it's going to be really difficult. And I knew I was like, I'm going to spend a pretty penny on yarn for this because I need it to be beautiful yarn that is DK weight-ish for the shawl, but not really woolly because my mom lives in the desert in the US and it's really hot. So I went into this yarn store, and with the help of my partner, I found the most perfect, oh yeah, get it in the light, the most perfect yarn. Again, it is Malabrigo, so I guess I'm becoming a Malabrigo girl. In the base, Cicero. It's a DK sport weight, so it's a bit finer than the yarn that's recommended in the pattern by Natasha Hornby. It's 297 meters for 100 grams or 325 yards. And it recommends a US 4 to US 7. I will be knitting on a US 7, so I think it should be okay. It's 50% mulberry silk, 25% merino, and 25% linen. So I really think that this is the perfect yarn base for the shawl I'm going to be knitting. The sample is knit in a gray and it's beautiful. It is a woolly wool though. This one just has such a shine, like such a luster to it from the silk. And the gray, so that comment I told you to put a pin in, My mother, and the hank is kind of coming out and we get this nice little rat tail on it. My mother has worked in color her entire life. She's worked in cosmetics, and she has an eye for color like nobody I've ever met in my entire life. And my mother has a darker skin tone than me. It's like a very warm olive, and I am see-through, so we have different colors work on us. And my mom is very picky with colors, obviously, and so I was worried because I didn't want to choose a color for her that she wouldn't like, but I also wanted it to be a surprise. So I basically told her, you know, I'm knitting something for you. I'm gonna keep holding up this yarn because it's so pretty and it's really hard to photograph just the luster and the roundness. And so I'm just gonna keep trying to capture it for you. I asked her, I was like, you know, what kind of yarn would you want? What color? And I was sending her some options from Ching Fibers, and I just was worried about not getting it in the mail, which that problem has been resolved. I will get it in the mail. So, and she was basically saying, you know, like gray, which really surprised me because I don't think I've ever seen my mother wear gray. And she was like, but gray with depth. And I was like, gray with depth. And there were some other colors, you know, like camel, things like that. But I really think the Laulu Shawl will be just so beautiful in this gray. And I believe it is a gray with depth because it literally shines, like it has a luster. And it's like a purple-based gray. And you can kind of see the purple in it, which reminds me, when I was in the yarn store, there was actually another one of these in Polar Moon, which I just realized is this colorway on this silk paca. And so obviously they're different bases, so they're gonna take the dye differently, but you can see the difference. Like this is much bluer and this is much more purple. And my partner was like, you should get the Polar Moon on this Susuro base. And I was like, but I know my mom doesn't like blue-based things. I know that for a fact. And she told me that there were some purples that she was okay with. And so for that reason, despite my partner's protestations, and this colorway on this base was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, I decided to do the purple-based one because I felt that it would be the most suited to her and the shawl will be for her, and that is what she deserves. So this was not cheap. I was really nervous about not getting enough, and they had, I think, 4 or 5 of them in the store, so I bought 4, I'm pretty certain. I got 4. It's so beautiful, and it literally says on the tag that it's breezy, soft, and light, which is exactly what I want for my mom. I want her to be able to wear it. And I think when they're all together, you can really see, I really hope the light is okay because the sun is leaving me. I really hope you can see that it is just gorgeous and so hard to photograph. So I'm gonna start where I wanna cast this on. I do. And it's so nice. My mom traveled all around Europe when she was younger. She's never been to Sweden. And so I just think it's gonna be so nice to work with, remembering that trip with my boyfriend, which was so wonderful, and being able to gift it to her and for her to just kind of be bound up with all these memories and for me to be able to give it to her in Belgrade, which is going to be so exciting. So finally, I know, the last thing I got, and it was really sad because I couldn't order on Knitting for Olive when they were giving away money to a relief organization for Ukraine because they don't ship to Serbia. And when I went to Lilta Nystan, LN, let's call it LN, I knew they had a bunch of Knitting for Olive and I got some. And I've always wanted the Dusty Artichoke colorway. Looking back, I think I would have gotten, had I been a bit, if I realized how much Knitting for Olive Star Nordland uses, I think I would have gotten some more in a different base. However, I'm really happy about this. I got the Pure Silk Dusty Artichoke. I feel like it's one of the most popular yarns that is known to man on YouTube. And I want to knit the Camisole number 4 by My Favorite Things Knitwear out of it, which is the exact yarn that they use in their pattern. And I originally got it, so I wanted to make that. And then I was like, you know, I don't really want to make things I'm not going to wear. I don't really wear camisoles, I don't like to show my arms. And so I was like, I'm going to get a bunch of it. And I got 4 balls. I'll just take out another one. We don't need to see all 4. I got 4 to make the So Summer shirts to go with this silk Well, actually, I went here first. So I got these and I was like, I'm gonna make my sleep shirt out of it and have a sleep and have silk PJs because I'm very fancy. And then I went to Fingersborg and I got this beautiful silk yarn in this pink, and I thought it would be such a cute, like pastel-y, bubblegummy PJ set. And that was my plan. But then when I was in Hungary, I got a linen long sleeve shirt that I love, and that would look so good over this camisole. So I'm making this into the camisole. I'm using that light green I showed before to make the So Summer shirt, and this will remain my sleep pants. So that is all the yarn that I got. Oh, that's a lie. This one will be brief. I went to a vintage thrift store with my partner in Stockholm. I got a really cute silk scarf that has butterflies on it. That's actually in the Instagram photo showing all the yarn I got from Stockholm. If you want to see it, follow me on Instagram, Knit with Madeline. There was also a bag of yarn that was $2 basically. And I had 2 of these, which is like a beige Aran worsted weight. I don't know what material this is. I feel like it's cotton. It's really soft. It's like in this light sand color. 2 of those. And then in this like very rustic feeling, tactile, to use Filena Knits word, what I see to be a purple based gray, but everyone who looks at it is like, no, that's just dark gray, but I'm telling you, I see purple in it. And it's a bit of a finer weight, very rustic. I think it's 100% wool. And then this even more very scratchy, yellowy, really light yellow yarn. And I feel like when you hold them next to each other, you can see that this one has some purple in it, I swear, because yellow and purple are complementary colors. So I swear, I was gonna make a hat, I know, but I felt like a colorwork hat would be fitting for a Scandinavian country souvenir yarn that was really cheap. This looks weird, knitted in a hat. It's like it doesn't have enough integrity, you know, like it's not like wool, it doesn't hold shape. If I were to size down on needles, it would just be tight, but like still kind of like flimsy. So I don't think that's what I'm going to use it for. I have no idea what I am going to use it for. This would lend itself well in a hat to use up some of the extra drops Puna that I have. So I think these will find themselves in a hat, not near the brim, because that would not be comfortable. But that was really fun. I've never really gotten like nice yarn. And at the thrift store, they had what I believe is this yarn in these little tiny mini hanks that were like, what, like 10, 50 grams? I don't know, tiny, like this big, very rustic feeling, and like these types of colors, like this light yellow, light orange, whatever. And it was really cool. I've never seen that. One of the bags of yarn they had for sale there had a full thing of mohair in it, which had a lot of polyamide and acrylic and whatever, so I didn't get it. I wanted to, but they wouldn't let me take it out of the bag, so I didn't need all the other yarn that it was with. I've been talking a lot, but that's what I got, and what I'm gonna make out of it, and the whips I'm already making from it. I had so much fun. Like I said, it was so cool to learn about these different cities by looking at sort of the knitting culture based on the prevalence and location of the yarn stores. It was really fun to interact with the people in the yarn stores. It was really great to finally be able to feel a lot of the nicer yarns that people use on YouTube that I've always just been curious about. Now I definitely feel, I think I could have been more strategic and kind of kept like mental notes about like, okay, I like Sunday by Sandus Garn. I don't like Duo or whatever. I didn't quite do that. I did feel a lot of mohairs, and they're very nice. But basically, I'm talking too much. All I want to say is that I acquainted myself with a lot of different kind of yarns and different people from around the world. And now every time I knit with these yarns, I'm going to think about those trips. And every time I wear the items, I'm going to think about those trips. And also I'm in a foreign country. I'm away from my stash, which is very little. And I can't really get a lot of these nicer hand-dyed yarns in Serbia. I can get a lot of Grossa though. I just have to go like an hour north. But basically this is just to say, I really think it's fine to buy a lot of yarn if you're gonna use it, even if you're not gonna use it, you know, whatever, do your own thing. But basically the point is I'm trying to be more mindful with the things that I buy. I want to buy things that are meaningful to me beyond they're just like literal practical use, but I do want to make sure the meaningful things I buy have a practical use. Hello again, it is editing me. I'm just sitting here knitting my summer shirt and editing the video, and I realized I forgot to mention the needles and notions that I got while I was away. To begin, I'll be brief. I got an Addy crochet hook in a 3mm. It's the size they recommended. I told them I was doing a provisional cast on. It was a little small, but I'm happy to have it. Then I got 2 sets of metal Addy needles. I'm trying to kind of test out different needle materials, and I've been really enjoying metal, so I wanted some nicer quality ones. I got the Addy just nickel-free premium needles in 4.5 to knit my mom's shawl. I also have this size in wooden needles, so I'll be able to kind of pick and choose which I prefer. And then I got the Addy lace needles in a 2.5mm for the Starry Nordland sock patterns that I'm knitting. I felt because they're patterned and not just plain knitting on magic loop might be better, and I've heard wonderful things on many a podcast about the lace weight yarns. Lace needles, what? I'm a little tired. And then I finally got some stitch markers, and I know there was at least one person that was interested in my stitch marker journey. I got these plastic green and purple ones from Litet Nystan, LN, the first knitting shop I went to in Stockholm, just the classic ones. And then at the Fingerborg boutique, the next one I went to, I got the light bulb shaped ones. I got some in black. I'm going to hold them in front of my paleness so you can see. Blue, copper, and brass. They're all on there. I really like these. They're just really clean looking. The other ones are really good for beginning of round marker. And yeah, that's that. Those are all the things that I got. I did want to talk about the book that I'm reading, which is a Murakami book. Oh, the cord said hey. I also forgot that I knit a bookmark out of some leftover yarn that I had that I've never talked about because it's just kind of scrap. But since I've talked so much, I think I'm going to wait until the next podcast when hopefully that book is finished. And that's it. So if you've hung out all the way until this end of this episode, which I can't even imagine how long it will be, thank you so much. I really appreciate, like I said in the beginning, you taking the time out of your day to sit and listen to me. And I don't want this to just be me talking at you. I would love to be talking with you. So please leave a comment if you're so inclined. Some ideas for the more philosophical chatty knitting videos. Any thoughts you have about the yarns that I got or the projects that I've made. If you have any idea like what is going on with this Ursa sweater, please let me know. And yeah, I will let you go. And if you liked this video, please subscribe so that you can get, I don't even know if you'll get a notification, but just so you know, you can be around when the next video comes out. If you like this video, maybe like it. If you didn't like it, maybe dislike it. Yeah, thank you again. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, morning, whatever, and enjoy your knitting.